You ever notice how some folks can't handle seeing somebody else win? Especially if you pull up in something that makes the block do a double take like a midnight black Lamborghini that growls when you start it up? Yeah, that's where my trouble started. A car I bought after a lifetime of grinding, chasing down every deal, clawing my way up from a used car lot to owning a string of dealerships. I thought I'd finally made it, that I could enjoy a little luxury, maybe inspire some kid down the street who grew up like I did. Instead, I became public enemy number one, all because my taste didn't fit the local aesthetic, or at least that's what our HOA president, Marilyn, decided. Now, Marilyn, she's something else, you know what I mean? Platinum, hair, big sunglasses, power walk, like she owns the sun. And honestly, in Willow Creek, she kind of did. She was the warden. The self-declared queen of the cul-de-sac, married to Jerry, the poor guy who spent more time waxing his battered Corvette than actually driving it. At first, I tried to play nice smile wave, keep my Lambo parked squarely in the lines, roll in quiet, so as not to disturb anyone. But you could feel her eyes drilling into the side of my head every time I turned that key. There were little things at first, snide comments about taste at the block, BBQ anonymous notes under my windshield wiper about community standard stuff. That's almost funny until you realize it's just the beginning. You see, Marilyn didn't just dislike my car, she hated what it represented. Not just speed or money, but proof that someone else could do well without her say-so. And like all HOA bullies, she didn't come at me head-on at first. Nope, it was death by 1,000 paper cuts, fines for being non-conforming, a brand new no supercar rule that somehow appeared in the next newsletter, passive-aggressive little jabs, all dressed up as community spirit. Meanwhile, Jerry's vintage Corvette, louder than a marching band, never got a single warning, and nobody said boo about his parking because Marilyn ran the show. That's the kind of hypocrisy you get used to in these places, right? At first, I let it slide, figured I could outlast her, until one Saturday, things went sideways in a way even I couldn't have predicted. It was one of those perfect spring afternoons. Sun, warm breeze, light. You know, the kind where life feels a little bit easier. I'd just come back from a coffee run, windows down, feeling good when I hear this wild stomping like a stampede of angry geese. And here comes Marilyn, red-faced, charging straight at me, yelling that she's had enough of my disgraceful display. Before I even had a chance to grab my phone or even shut the door, she flat out jumps onto the hood of my Lambo. And I'm not talking a little sit-down protest. She bounced. Her shoes dug in her elbows, scraped the carbon fiber, and the whole time she's shrieking, "No supercars." "You think you're above the rules?" Jerry stumbles out, pale as a ghost, yelling her name. But she's in her own world. Neighbors came pouring out phones up, some of them actually laughing in disbelief. I mean, can you blame them? This wasn't just HOA drama anymore. This was a circus. My first thought was to scream. My second was get evidence. So I started snapping photos, called the police right in front of her, and you could see the exact moment it dawned on Marilyn that she might have gone too far. Cops show up, take one look at the hood, spider web, cracks, deep dents, scratches everywhere. Then at Marilyn, who's still yelling about community standards. I showed them the stack of warnings, the HOA rule she'd invented out of thin air, even a security cam shot of her bouncing on my car like a toddler on a trampoline. Officers took her statement, took mine. And before you know it, Marilyn's staring at a vandalism report. She tried to talk her way out of it, but you could see the story falling apart with every word. Let me back up a sec, because this is where things get interesting. Most folks didn't know what I actually did for a living. They just saw the car, figured I was some kind of lottery winner. Truth is, I own the biggest auto dealership network in the county. And let's just say I know my way around paperwork, contracts, and the art of following the money. The next day, while my Aventador was in the shop, specialist paintwork custom hood, don't ask me about the bill. I started poking into HOA records, trying to figure out how Marilyn kept her grip on the neighborhood. And what I found, well, let's just say the real fun was only beginning. It turns out a bunch of the folks running the HOA, including Marilyn, Jerry, Brenda, the treasurer, and this guy, Dale, who always looked down his nose at me, were all driving cars they couldn't quite afford. And guess what? Most of those cars were financed through my dealerships or my finance arm. A few discreet calls and some legal database checks. Later, I find out Jerry's Corvette was 3 months behind. On payments, Brenda's official SUV was on the repo list, and even Dale's big pickup was teetering on the brink. I started cross-referencing, digging a little deeper, and found all sorts of sketchy HOA expenses, landscaping charges that went to nowhere, consulting fees that lined up perfectly with car payments. Marilyn and her crew had been using HOA funds to prop up their own lifestyles while coming after me for being non-conforming. The irony was almost too good to be true. Here's where the twist comes in. One of the other neighbors, a guy named Pete, quiet as a mouse most days, turned out to be a retired auditor. He'd always kept his head down, but once he heard about the repo situation, he came to me with a folder of his own. Years of odd charges, unexplained, withdrawals, redacted receipts. Pete said he never had the courage to speak up before, but now with Marilyn exposed and her allies vulnerable, he wanted to help. So I put together a stack of paperwork, a timeline of their car payments, a list of default notices, screenshots of the HOA's mysterious consulting expenses, and called for an emergency HOA meeting. By then, word had gotten out about Marilyn's meltdown and the sudden rash of car repossessions. The clubhouse was packed, people angry, curious, and more than a little gleeful. Marilyn tried to shut it down, claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that I was trying to destroy the community. But this time, nobody was buying it. I laid out everything, no accusations, just facts. Showed the receipts connected, the dots, let Pete walk through the sketchy accounting, and you could feel the energy shift. Brenda broke down in tears, Dale started blaming the system, and Jerry just looked at his shoes. Marilyn tried to rally, but her voice wobbled, and for the first time she looked genuinely scared. A vote was called for a full audit. It passed. Within 2 weeks, the auditors found what Pete and I had suspected: funds missing, vendors that didn't exist, money funneled straight into board members' car payments and vacations. After that, the dominoes fell fast. Marilyn and her clique forced to resign their names. Mud in the community, cars. Gone their house up for sale. The new board, made up of folks who'd been bullied for years, scrapped the no supercar rule and sent a letter of apology, even invited me to lead the next HOA barbecue. My Lambo came back from the shop looking better than new, and you better believe I took it for a slow spin down every street in the neighborhood, waving at every porch, smiling for every phone camera. Justice, sweet and simple. But you know, even with all that, sometimes I still sit out, back, drink in hand, and wonder where the line is, how far you should go to fight back when it stops being about justice and starts looking like payback. Was I right to push so hard? Did Marilyn get what she deserved, or did the whole neighborhood just trade one tyrant for another? That's the thing about power. Everyone wants it until it's shining a spotlight on them. Anyway, that's my story. If you've ever had to stand up to a bully, HOA or otherwise, or you've seen this kind of neighborhood mess firsthand, drop a comment below. Let me know. Where's the line between justice and revenge? What would you have done? I want to hear your wildest stories, your opinions. Let's get a real conversation going down there.